Hello and welcome to Frankly Speaking, and today joining me is the one and only Union Finance Minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman. Thank you for joining me, and may I congratulate you for a stupendous success in the G20. Though the G20 has been seen as the great Indian big fat wedding, on the one side were serious negotiations, so the serious track was there. On the other, there was all the frills and fancies of art, culture, meeting, greeting going on. And then, of course, there were a few relatives who were extremely upset. How do you see the G20, the outcome, and, of course, the opposition's reaction to it?
Well, I think G20 Delhi Declaration is a landmark piece of a document. And right at the beginning, unhesitatingly, I'll give all the credit to Honourable Prime Minister. And you will say, obviously, you're a minister, therefore... No. He had a complete picture of how this has to be handled in the country. He wanted it to be taken in every state and conducted in such a manner that the people feel that this is happening for our good. It is going to give something back to India. This is not just an international event, but all of us have something to contribute to it. So all this was explicitly stated by the Prime Minister even from the days when we were planning, much before he took it over from Indonesia in Bali. So we knew that we had to take it to all states. We knew that it had to be a very clear people's participation. We also knew that this was the way in which India's hospitality, Aditi Devo Bhava, will be showcased. And obviously, the hardest thing, that the content of what we do is going to have such meat in it that people will participate, the delegates will participate with the nitty-gritty in their hand, so that the eventual document, which now is called Delhi Declaration, would be a landmark piece. Therefore, from the beginning, through the running in this 1 year, taking it to all states, showcasing the state's uniqueness, food, culture, their music, their festivals, their artwork, the craftsmen, everything was put in place. Now, is this something which is going to satisfy just our egos? No. Every member country and my counterparts have told me that India has actually handled it in such a way that it has lifted the entire G20 presidency for any country. It set a very high benchmark. And truly, some of them even told me that in their team, there would be at least one officer who's visited at least 10 destinations in this country in the process of the deputies meeting, working group meeting, and so on. So India has showcased itself as a good tourism destination. Culture has been showcased. People have been given a chance to interact with these delegates who came in. Many of the products which are top-notch products have been showcased there for them to buy it and even given as gifts by Honourable PM. All of us have given our counterparts. So it was utilized fully for putting India in its top position as a country worth visiting, seeing and appreciating for its values.
But many say that the manner in which this was conducted was almost as if you were using this event to catapult you in election season and market not just the Prime Minister, but market that India, that is Bharat, and that Prime Minister and his government are almost synonymous with the country itself. How do you react to that criticism?
Much before I react to all that, aren't they proud that India, in all its variety, in all its diversity, in all its cultural difference between one state to another, has been beautifully showcased? Are they not proud of it? Are they not proud that every delegate had a taste of all this for themselves? Was it possible within 1 year, even if you held a tourism year, India tourism year, would you have managed to do this much to draw the attention of top 20 countries of the world through their ministers and through their premiers, presidents, whoever, to draw attention to India, especially when the world is looking at one crisis after another with a sense of hopelessness? Wouldn't you think that this is a contribution that India has made to the world and in return got recognition? I would think that is the way to look at. You can have your domestic policy, politics and its compulsions. But wouldn't you want to first of all say that it has been conducted keeping all states in mind? There are times when people scream saying it's a federal structure, you've not respect. We've showcased every state. And in the process also kept in mind the sensitivity of some countries. We didn't bother. What is our sovereign land, we'll display, we'll showcase, we'll host. These don't appear. All right, now, in response to the question, India held Asiad Games. India held non-aligned summit. Was it for showcasing the then prime ministers? Was it just for election purpose? Oh, if that was the way you ran it, good luck to you. You ran it then, you may run it and run it similarly whenever in distant future you get a chance. But I thought it was the right approach Prime Minister took, that it's an opportunity to showcase India in all its variety. And that's what he did. And that was before you, before me, before all of us. I think the opposition should get out of its negative mindset and first concede on what it has given us and then do your politics. No.
But there is no recognition, you think, of the fact some people in the opposition have come out and complimented Shashi
Tharoor.
Random? He's not random.
In the sense, he's in the party.
He's a member of parliament.
Of course he's a member of parliament. Of course he heads some of the important committees. Of course I recognize him as a very important member of the Congress party. But when I say random, just one odd individual. And that is his individual opinion. None of the parties which form those ... alliance, India alliance, have even had the grace to say, which the world has seen, that India was able to now negotiate even on some very sensitive and contentious issues, to bring all the countries, top 20, G20 countries on board and get a consensus at a time when you saw the last 3 presidencies went with one or the other issue and couldn't even find, one common note on which they could be brought together. Here, not just on one issue, but on every issue, consensus. India's diplomacy today is seen with the sense of awe, the maturity, the suave way in which they handled it, have all been recognized.
But this you didn't even allow the US president to hold a press conference. Na bolunga, na bolne dunga. Mr. Jairam Ramesh, the head of the media cell of the Congress party, actually said that Mr. Joe Biden had to go to Vietnam to make his statement on the concerns about human rights, freedoms of various kinds in India. How do you respond to that criticism?
Wherever Prime Minister had a bilateral meeting, at the end of it, if there was a press release, they released it. If Jairam chooses that there should have been a press conference here and a statement there or a statement here, it doesn't go by the interest and wish list of the opposition. Bilaterally, the 2 countries decide where they have to do it. It is not decided solely by the PMO. So he knows all this. He knows as to how in a multilateral event and where bilaterals are also held, how things are conducted. Well, what does it cost him for him to say anything?
They also say that humongous amounts of money were spent at a time when India is reeling under inflation. Common people are facing the brunt of high prices on their wallets, and inflation rates in July, especially the food inflation, has been extremely high.
Navika, I can talk for quite some time on just the inflation, particularly that food inflation, they're shedding crocodile tears. during their period, it had reached 12%, 13%, and so on. I'm not saying the prices of edible products, particularly perishables, are not pinching the common people. We are trying to make sure that the supply side difficulties are handled. And I'm not indifferent to it. We are making sure that improved supplies reach people, and you saw tomatoes have already crashed to the other end, where the farmers are not even getting their input costs back. So there are mismatches, supply side mismatches. There is a group of ministers who look at it almost alternative days to make sure that commodities reach. And at that time too, I stood up in the parliament to answer that for tomatoes, we are procuring from Kolar and some tomato growing areas and importing from Nepal and immediately spreading. And you must have seen, as media, you would have noticed in Delhi, in different areas, we sent mobile vans to sell tomatoes to people.
But we are the boycotted media.
So,
they don't believe us.
Right. So all the talk that and all the talking down about freedom of speech and press freedom is only to us, not to anybody else. So the point that the opposition will have to sit up and answer on is, if you're talking on inflation, I'm happy to answer, which I did in the parliament, and I'll do it again whenever you ask me. But would you please care to sit there to listen to my reply or walk out? You ask the questions, you've done your job, because you can go tell the common people that I've raised this issue in the parliament. But you won't be there to listen to the reply. Why me? They don't sit even to hear the Prime Minister speak. So they're shedding tears on democracy and freedom of speech. And they're telling us about gagging media. When they've come out to the honor list, you're in the list of, so honorable media persons who they don't want to face. They don't have the courage to answer media and its questions. But they'll say, we talk truth to power. Is this talking truth to power, saying, I don't care, I don't recognize your existence, oh, you anchors, stay where you are, we won't come to you? It's clearly saying that we don't have the courage to face you.
Yeah.
So you should wear it as a badge of honor.
Till day before yesterday, many of those parties and their representatives were on our shows, and suddenly, within 12 hours, the position changed. But
they say they are what? Pyar ka dukan, something, no?
Mohabbat ka dukan.
Whatever. If they have to send the message on Mohabbat ka dukan, they need a medium. Don't they want to talk to media? And the list of 12, like the normally,
14.
like 14. Like in economy, we always say ASEAN group or BRICS group. They have 40% of the global trade, or this has 30% of the global trade, and so on. The group of 14 have nearly what? 45 to 50% of TV coverage, viewership. They don't want it.
Well,
how are
maybe
they
they
spreading
don't.
the message of Mohabbat ka dukan?
Well, there are
They're showing
many.
nafrat to you all.
Yeah, true. We are the B14, the boycotted 14. That's the grouping that we are part of. But apart from that, is there a complete breakdown in communication? Do you think the government could have been magnanimous and called Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, the leader of opposition, Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, the leader of the largest opposition party in Lok Sabha, for the G20 dinner? Because of Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge not being called, there were two chief ministers who didn't quite turn up. I just want to ask you.
Two chief ministers who quite didn't turn up?
Ashok Gehlot and Mr. Bhupesh Baghel.
Yeah, Congress chief minister from Himachal Pradesh was there. So, see, as a constitutional position holder, chief minister, you're invited, you come. But if your party were to tell you, your constitutional duty being what it is, don't bother. You should not represent because you are the chief minister of all the people of that state. Irrespective of that, you shall not go, because I as a party will give you a partisan call to say don't go for a dinner being hosted by who? The President of India. She's inviting all the G20 heads of states to come. And there you want to go and boycott? You're insulting a president, a woman president, a tribal lady who's come up that far. You're insulting her. You're not insulting Prime Minister, you're insulting the Rashtrapati. What a shame. A party which has been in power, which every now and then reminds you, oh, you did not invite Rashtrapati for the inauguration of the parliament. The invite is from her. You're insulting her. And upar se giving a different kind of a story to the public. They are duty bound to answer if they have instructed their chief ministers not to attend. The chief ministers don't represent Congress party in that state. They represent the people of that state.
So, Nirmala Sitharaman, is there an India alliance? And there were differences that were very visible at that dinner. But the G20 dinner gala all seems a long time ago, especially when you talk about statements and instances that have come up since then. I want to specifically ask you, you are from the south and you understand Dravidian politics, you're from Tamil Nadu. I want to ask you, when Mr. Stalin, when Mr. A. Raja, when there is a minister in the DMK government in Tamil Nadu, they all come out almost as if it's a chorus and say that Sanatan Dharma should be removed, eradicated, and that Hinduism is, is such a problem, not only in India, it's all over, it's a menace, it's malaria, it's dengue, it's even leprosy and HIV. What do you make of this? Is this their belief because they follow Dravidian politics, or is there an agenda?
Navika, whilst I'll talk as a representative of the government, I'll talk as a party, once upon a time, spokesperson, I'll talk as a BJP worker, I'll talk as a citizen of India. But with all this, I also want you to understand, I have lived experience in Tamil Nadu where this politics of hate against Hindus, hate against a particular caste, which is Brahmin, have been actively practiced by the DMK for almost now 70 years. My grandfathers had experiences. My family has had experiences. I have been mocked every time I go to college or school or go for my Hindi class or go for my Sanskrit class. This is the politics they play in the ground. And the rest of the country, because everything happens in Tamil, and most people don't even understand what is happening because they don't understand Tamil, it's been sort of, okay, something is happening, you look the other way and you carry on with your business. But this is happening in Tamil Nadu, not today, it's been happening for 70 years. Why this time it's gaining so much of traction? Because a minister who has sworn by the constitution, oath of office, violates and speaks, I will eradicate, destroy, dismantle, abolish, you use any number of synonyms. Sanatan Dharma. What happens to the oath that is taken by the constitution? One, in that meeting on the dais is another minister who's a minister for Hindu religious charitable endowments. That's a ministry to protect temples, to keep the worship there going on, to fund the temples properly, to the collected donation be used for the pilgrims' welfare. It's a different story that it can be even siphoned off for other non-religious purposes, non-Hindu religious purposes. But the minister who's meant to be protecting and taking care of temples under the Hindu religious charitable endowments is seated there, doesn't blink an eyelid, doesn't have an objection for this minister who speaks this, and look at the state of affairs then. Ministers who have sworn by the constitution and this I.N.D.I alliance, which speaks of secularism, which sheds crocodile tears. Oh, secularism. Does secularism mean that you will appease? That's what you've been doing, and we accuse them of that even today. Appeasement of one particular section. But does it equally mean that hatred of Sanatan Dharma, and you go to the extent, and this minister who speaks, who's no less than the son of the chief minister, he speaks, he's a sworn minister by the constitution. He says, oh, you know, actually I'm extra happy. I'm paraphrasing, don't quote me, paraphrasing. He says, I'm extra happy that it is not a meeting for protesting against Sanatan Dharma, but it's a meeting to say, we'll eradicate it. He says it in so many words. எதிர்ப்பு மகாநாடு இல்ல, ஒழிக்கிறதுக்கு மகாநாடு. Meaning எதிர்ப்பு is protest and ஒழிக்கிறது is for eradication, a complete removal. He says all this having sworn by the constitution, oath of office, that he shall not do anything against anybody in the name of hate or in the name of, building ill will among people. So that is the one. And why does it get traction now and in the last 70 years it has not?
But they say they are saying this against the malpractices in Sanatan Dharma.
You may now give anything as an explanation. Malpractices exist in every religion. Where there is a human interface, and over the years, over the centuries, every religion has its own, something which is not ideal, maybe which is not true to the original books. So go about clearing everybody, na? No. I'm interested in only removing this because they are dengue, they are malaria, they are HIV. You go about doing all this and then say, no, I'm looking at only the malpractices.
But is this an attempt? And I want to ask you, as a psephologist.
And wait a minute. DMK said this. DMK is doing this for the last 70 years. Congress, which has no existence in Tamil Nadu, is happily joining hands, not just being mute spectator. They are mouthing the same thing. The president of Tamil Nadu Congress has said this in one of the interviews. Our objective in this alliance is to eradicate Sanatana Dharma. And when you ask them, no, we are talking about caste system and we want to remove it. No, you have been doing this for 70 years and mind you, in Tamil Nadu, caste system is not abolished. Honor killings happen in Tamil Nadu. Recently in a school, because of caste difference, children have been so poisoned. They've gone to slash another child. And the child is struggling for his or her life in the hospital. So these are people for the last 70 years who are trying to bring in a casteless society. They've succeeded. They are actually perpetrating it in the name of spreading hate. A school saw children hitting each other threateningly because of caste. Cow dung, human faces were added in drinking water in a village. That's Tamil Nadu for you, under DMK for you. And Congress, which is an alliance with DMK, doesn't have a word to criticize. On the contrary, mouths the same thing. Congress President Mallikarjun G. Kharge also said Sanatan Dharma should be removed. CPM member says that. RJD member says that. So this I.N.D.I in the alliance this time around is pronouncedly against Sanatan Dharma. You can be sure that this is their stated agenda.
Is this their formula to cut into the Hindu votes by making the caste specific addresses and trying to appeal to those castes?
No, it's no longer caste. It's entire Sanatan Dharma that they are saying, no, this is evil, this has to go away. This is influencing everybody,
even
even
Congress
worse.
Comes out and an official statement comes, we believe in Sarva Dharma Sambhav. So,
yes, their Sarva Dharma Sambhav is seen in the way repeatedly Congress party has been speaking in language of appeasement. That is a cover. But the actual intention in this country for this alliance is make sure if you come to power, remove Sanatan Dharma. Don't take them lightly on this.
Is this the main plank on which the elections of 2024 will be fought?
They will be fighting on it, and we'll certainly give them the reply. They will be fighting because they want to have their vote bank come together. Just appeasement didn't work. So now I want more than appeasement. Appeasement is happening in elected states like Karnataka. But this also now is required because they want to put some more powder into their
on the Karnataka story also, journalists have FIRs against them, and they say lies are being peddled. So I won't drift into a sub judice territory on that. But Nirmala Sitharaman, I want to ask you, if there are such sharp differences, if religion every election comes out in the forefront, your party is not shy of using the religious Hindutva plank for its own elections, then how can you blame the new plank that is being created by the Indie Alliance, as you call them, because ultimately all's fair in love and war and elections?
No, if that's the measure with which you want to go ahead, I don't have a comment to give you. But I think India's elections will have to be fought on issues which don't break or divide or spread hate. Today, a minister in a state has deliberately spoken and spread hate, and toxic words were used. Would you condemn it or would you not? First, let that be clear.
Can the centre take action?
Let all the states, let all the alliance partners, first of all, say, are they with them or are they not? If you're not, state it. If you are, you're remaining silent.
So I want to ask you, if all these opposition parties stay together, have a common plank, stay silent on issues that might have divergent views, but get together in a seat-sharing arrangement where they put one common candidate against the BJP candidate, do you think this election is going to be difficult for the BJP?
Whether they do it or not, elections are always difficult. Elections are always got to be taken well seriously. Because if you've done good work, that has to reach the people both in real terms, if they are, let's say, beneficiaries who should get the benefit, or even if they are not the beneficiaries, they should know that the inclusive society is being built, taken care of, and there are plans to take India forward. This message has to successfully reach the people. So on that, we will have a serious work to do. Other than reaching beneficiaries successfully without pilferage, we also need to have that story said to everybody. See, this is what is the good work Prime Minister Modi has done. We'll have to do that.
But is the opposition setting the narrative? Is the BJP on defensive mode?
If you are raising issues of this nature, which going against the constitution, you're spreading toxin, we will fight. And that will be a reaction to what they've said. But if you say, if that is defensive, you're overlooking the good work which this government has done in 10 years.
It's because of you that the constitution is in danger. You don't have a dialogue with the opposition. You don't even come out clearly when you call a special election session of the parliament. You don't even state the agenda up front. It takes you, almost 13 days to put out the agenda of the special session of parliament. And then Mr. Jairam Ramesh tweet says, this is the bland agenda that's come out. There must be grenades up your sleeve. Are there grenades up your sleeve? What are these grenades like?
I want to first of all say, what a special session. We call a session, we call the session according to the law and ask the president to seek her permission and then declare the announcement in due time, 15 days before, 20 days before, we announce it. And a session's agenda is released in time, which we will do. Just because Jairam asked or probably planned for Srimati Sonia Gandhi to write a letter, that doesn't become the agenda. Oh, I demand an agenda. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. There is a process through which agenda is announced. And we'll do that as per that process. Congress party wants to make an issue out of everything because they want to create a feeling that, oh, something is happening. We need to be aware of this. We are telling you, without violating any due process, you should wait for it. Now, the other thing is, declare, sit in the Business Advisory Committee after the commencement of the session, decides on something. Even after that, you don't come to the House. You sat in the Business Advisory and decided. And then you come to the House, if at all, and protest against what you yourself have agreed on. So Congress party should stop talking all this. Because repeatedly people are saying how they are going against their own laid procedures.
So what about the issue on Manipur? Is it settled? What about joblessness? What about inflation? What about the Adani controversy, which has raised its head once again? And they say
Navika,
that the government is favoring only one corporate house.
Navika, I'm astonished that you media, you inclusive, media in general, ask this question on Adani, ask the question on Manipur. I thought you even brought a vote of confidence against the government. That entire session was dedicated for that. Prime Minister came and participated and gave a reply because it's vote of confidence. You said no confidence on this government, so I will come. And you said Manipur, we are not getting answer. Adani, we are not getting answer. He came and gave you a complete, comprehensive and rounded reply. Couple of months you still want to raise the same issue? Prime Minister answered you all. So, completely running out of issues. You have no concrete criticism against the government. You fear that the good work which Prime Minister Modi has done in reaching out to the poor, the needy, the scheduled castes, the tribes, doing everything to keep their samman, their honor high. So now, what is that one issue which you like to pick up on? You don't know. So bring back Adani, bring back Manipur. You came with a vote of no confidence and that was squarely defeated. You couldn't even wait for the vote. You walked out in between. You bring the vote of no confidence and then you walk out. Will people trust you? Did you notice all this during the last session, Navika?
But then there is a new session.
Would you not want to ask them saying, Bhaiya, you brought in a vote of no confidence against this government. You walk out during the session. You're not even there for the final reply. And if anything, after that, they forfeited their right to ask a question post that. They have a right given. They could have asked a question. No, they all went away. How serious is this opposition of India?
Well, I'm the boycotted journalist, so I don't know when I'll get the next opportunity to ask them these questions squarely, looking them in the eye. But I want to ask you, then what is the agenda for those bills that are there, or just moving into the new parliament, or is it one nation, one poll? Is it the women's reservation bill? Because this government hasn't really addressed the issue of women's reservation. Perfunctorily, every government likes to bring it, and then towards the end of their tenure, when it lapses, they say, hum to laaye the, and it didn't get support. Is the BJP actually even going to do that?
First of all, on women, G20 recognizes that India is doing governance, keeping women in the center. In fact, women-led development is the idea which PM put through the 10 years, and that was also an issue which G20 took cognizance of, and they appreciated that this women-led development idea of taking decisions which will put women in the forefront is something which the G20 Delhi Declaration also appreciates. So what are you talking about? If there's been a government which has done systematically work to strengthen women, it is Prime Minister Modi's government.
What about the bill? What about reservation for women?
Well, you will get to know whatever is the agenda which will be released by the Parliament Affairs. You will see
Do you think it should come? As a woman, parliamentarian, do you think there should be women reservation?
I'm a representative of a government. I can only speak that which I can speak. My personal views are kept aside. I will not talk about it.
Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, is it a coincidence that Mr. Rahul Gandhi, whenever there's something big happening in India, is traveling abroad and raising issues of dissonance in India. Is it a coincidence, or do you think he has the right to raise these issues? And in the country, not too much credence is given to the objections raised by the opposition, and there's no engagement with the treasury benches on this. So he raises them abroad. That's the explanation. Where do you stand on this?
You wondered if it was a coincidence. I don't wonder if it's a coincidence or not, because dates for G20 Summit or dates for Parliament or dates for anything major happening in the country are all normally in advance announced. So you, me, anybody will know about these dates. Now, despite knowing you will still want to go abroad, well, that's your right. I can't say no. But is it a coincidence? No. How can it be a coincidence? It's public knowledge. So you still want to go. That's about it. Do it. You still want to go? Go. But one thing which Rahul Gandhi is consistent about, and I have to say he's consistent about, is he never misses a chance, particularly when he goes abroad, to voice everything negative about India, because he hates Prime Minister Modi. And he's continuing to do it. And people might say he's not given a chance here to speak, and therefore he's finding audience there and he's going and doing it there. Let them give any inference they want. But he was not even in the House during the vote of confidence. A fleeting appearance and a fleeting disappearance, and then coming back again, and then completely going away. So engagement with him, opportunity was there before you. You've come back to the Parliament after an unfortunate case in which you chose to not apologize before the court for having made a very depreciating remark against the entire community, again driven by your hate against Prime Minister Modi. You come back to the Parliament and your party wants to celebrate it, your arrival into the House. And where were you? Your party's vote of no confidence, you've gone off.
But he has even abroad raised the issue of the Adani report by Guardian and Financial Times, which was brought up in the run-up to the G20. He's raised those questions. What would you say to him, and what would you?
It is in the court, isn't it? Let that also be discussed.
But there are new findings.
Never mind. It is for the court to decide what they want to do with the new findings. Would you trust the court or not? That court, which today has brought you back into the House, you won't trust that House, that court?
And what would be your message to Mr. Rahul Gandhi on the Sanatan slander that alliance parties in his own India alliance are doing?
His love for Sanatan is only just before the election, when he becomes a Janayudari. Otherwise, he doesn't care anything about people who can decry Sanatan Dharma, who can speak ill of Hindus. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to him. Otherwise, by now, he would have given a clear statement. He hasn't.
He's not in the country, maybe.
That's right, yeah. And social media, newspapers, new televisions are not existent.
The opposition has also raised objections about the fact when 3 officers were martyred in Jammu and Kashmir, your party was celebrating G20 at the party headquarters. How do you respond to the insensitivity?
I'm sorry. Talking about insensitivity, the one thing which remains in all our minds, and you will agree with me on it, that night when in Mumbai, horrendous terror attack happened. Who was partying in a club?
But he wasn't the Prime Minister then.
Never mind. As an Indian citizen, as a responsible party member of an opposition party, that time ruling party,
He was just an MP.
That time, the dynast who was running the ruling party, who had the temerity to tear an ordinance, but on that day chooses to be in a club. After that, they have no moral authority to speak about, oh, you're celebrating. you have no moral authority to speak.
They don't. Maybe the people of the country do.
19, and also after Srimati Indira Gandhi's assassination, the way in which his party cadres, who are now leaders, had behaved in murdering Sikhs on the streets of Delhi. Not one word of solid apology by the party, and the apology was also given by a Sikh Prime Minister on behalf of his party. Look at the way Congress does things. Very much like the British. We'll do the wrong, but we'll make you apologize.
Is the government ready for a caste census? Because BJP leaders in Bihar say, yes, we need a caste census because that's the politics of Bihar, but in the center, you don't want a caste census coming up. Why is there double speak, and why are there political...
There's no double speak. Party in a state feels something. Center has taken a position. Where's the double speak? You speak very much for freedom of speech. This is it.
That they can speak what they want.
Well, in a state, if they think they want to articulate something, they would. But they also do go by the decision taken by the party in its collective wisdom.
So no caste census?
Well, you've heard the party speak about it. I don't think I will enter into a discussion.
Let me ask you, 200 rupees reduced on gas cylinders, done just before Raksha Bandhan.
Not even before. 200 rupees subsidy was given even before for all the Ujjwala consumers.
Is that all? Or do you have some more love that is likely to come out in the next few weeks?
75 lakh new connections.
That was part of the same announcement.
Yes.
Any more announcements?
Well, we made an announcement. See how it is working out. I think the media's duty is to go find out.
We're running into election season, and your party, for whatever governance records that it talks about, manages to reduce excise duties on petrol, diesel closer to elections. Rest of the time they say these are controlled by oil marketing companies.
21 November during Deepavali, there was no election. It was Deepavali. 22 June, there was no Deepavali. Both the times Honourable Prime Minister said, no, we need to bring it down. We brought it down. No election. There are elections in which promises were given that we'll bring it down by, say, 5 rupees or 7 rupees per litre. There are manifestos which said it. And after that, not even 1 rupee was reduced. In some states, 1.5 rupees was reduced, not the full amount promised. And when you ask them, they say, still we have another 3-4 years to go, we'll reduce it then. You got your vote, but you want to spread it on 5 years?
We are running into election season.
No, but states which have not done, I would want you to ask. And in those states, inflation still is very high and higher than the rest of the states where the prices were brought down.
Well, but I still continue to ask you, you are the first woman finance minister, and many people, when they look at you, especially women in this country, they look at you and feel that she'll probably understand our kitchen worries, our wallet worries more than others. You know, women tend to be the budget keepers at home as well. They're looking forward today to know from you, what's your roadmap from now till maybe the end of your term, so that they can plan their lives around it?
Yes, I can for once say very clearly, I have not increased tax on any item till now, GST or direct. No, yes. So this is one thing. Second, particularly for perishable commodities, we have made sure that supply side problems are addressed. There is a group of ministers which looks into it in detail. Rice and wheat have been released from Food Corporation of India go down so that market prices come down. Efforts are being made to make sure inflation is contained. And for those who wanted lesser rate of tax to pay, income tax, I brought in a second parallel system through which you pay lesser tax. And in that, people said standard deduction is not being given and therefore it is still not attractive. I brought that in. So now, if you're earning approximately 60,000 rupees, you don't pay any tax at all. For 7 lakh odd, we don't charge any tax. So reduction of Income tax has happened.
Dil mange more.
Oh, that's fine. You have every right.
But will you actually oblige?
I've heard you. Let's see.
Let me ask you on a personal note, Nirmala ji. You know, being a finance minister, holding a very, very responsible and heavy-duty position, being part of the Cabinet Committee on Security, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, has its own pressures. When you see comments on social media, do you actually go through them? Do you see the memes? How do they affect you?
I do go through them. There was a time, I think, long time back, several years back, when it used to make me feel bad. Now I don't feel bad at all. I do hear the messages which come out. The memes entertain me. Actually, they do entertain me, and I don't mind if people want to make a joke out of it. But the intentions with which I work continue to be like before. I have to serve and serve for the country. That continues.
What next? Will you fight an election? Because political stories coming out say that everybody who's in the Rajya Sabha has been told to prepare to fight Lok Sabha elections. Will you be doing that?
Well, it's not been told to. I think if it's possible to consider. So that's where it lies.
Any discussion, debate, any area that you may have?
No discussions.
Nirmala Sitharaman, thank you very much for a very candid point of view. And do you manage to still continue to do a few of your hobbies along with?
Yes, I do.
And what are they?
Well, read books, listen to a lot of good music.
Carnatic music?
Classical music.
Classical.
Both Hindustani.
And that relaxes you?
Absolutely. There's no magic beyond music and mantra.
After the cacophony of politics.
Good mantra, listening to good mantra, reciting some mantras, and listening to music are great energy givers.
Well, many will see that as Sanatani all the way. Well, on that note, thank you very much for joining me on Frankly Speaking. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Navika.